Hello, everybody, and good afternoon, and welcome to today's Friday Live on this day, October the 6th, 2023. Good afternoon to you all. I am feeling much better. For those of you who tuned in last week, I was very much I was dealing with a pretty nasty bug that I caught on my flight home, but feeling a lot better this week and looking forward to catching up with you guys. Hi, Nathan. Hello. Thank you for saying hi. Appreciate that. Straight off the bat, love it when people say hi and let me know that they're listening out there. We are starting at a new time for those of you who are overseas. It's daylight savings here in Australia. Yay! I love daylight savings. I really do. I love having that extra daylight at the end of the day. We went into daylight savings on Sunday, so that means my live will be appearing an hour earlier for you guys than what you're normally used to. So hopefully that helps make it a little more accessible to some people. Hang on, my dog is scratching at the door. I just let him in and he wants to go out. Has to go. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, hello, my name is Fiona Lukeis. I run these Friday Lives every Friday at around about 12:30. This is where I just answer any questions that you have around relationships. Relationships are my specialty. I've been working in the relationship space for, 14, 15 years. I'm losing track now. I work with couples, I work with individuals, I work with teams, families, and I just teach a really wonderful, simple, and profound understanding of how human beings work. And when you look in the direction of this understanding, everything becomes a lot simpler and easier to navigate. We feel calmer, we feel more grounded, we have clarity of mind, we stop all that massive overthinking that I think is very destructive and toxic in our relationships. And we feel a lot more comfortable in our own skin, grounded, calmer, all of these wonderful things, right? Which enable us to be really good at relationships. And I just very, very passionately believe that relationships are just an essential life skill that we all have the capacity for. We're all able to do well, even if we've had traumatic pasts and difficult childhoods and all of those things. It doesn't have to stop you from being great at this stuff. It's just too important, and it's at the heart and center of everything that we do in life. There is nothing that you are not in relationship with. If you really think about it, and in my mind, there's these three key areas, and I come back to them again. But these three key areas: your relationship with you, your relationship with life, and your relationship with others. Okay, these are the three key areas of relationships that we are dealing with all the time. Okay, now it's your relationship with you and your relationship with life that determine this one, your relationship with others. Okay, and the great thing about the understanding I teach is it handles all three. Okay, so relationships don't have to be complicated, they don't have to be hard. It's just when we have a simple understanding of this is the psychological functioning of a human being, this is how the human mind works, this is just how it works, and it works the same way for everyone. It may have different ways of having us show up, but how we create our reality is the same. Male, female, it doesn't matter. All right. Love to see the comments coming through. Thank you, everyone. Mairead, hi. It's 34 degrees in Perth. Wow. Sounds amazing. I love that. It's not 34 degrees here in Melbourne. The sun is shining, but it's a bit chilly, but congratulations to you. That sounds like beautiful weather. Hi, Lisa. Hey, thank you so much for saying hi. David, great to see you. I've sent you an email, but haven't heard back. Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. Fiona is amazing. Her material is simply life-changing. Thank you so much, honey. I really, really appreciate that. Okay, David. Let me see. Hey, Sandy. Hi, honey. Thank you so much. Yes, you can catch me live, which probably means because I'm a little bit earlier in the Eastern time zone, not so late for you guys. So thank you so much for saying hi. And yes, I am feeling better, but it's been a slow road, I tell you. Whatever I caught really knocked me for six. All right, so let me read out David's question, and then I'll go to the questions that have been sent in to me. And if you do have a question, post it below, and I'll do my absolute best to answer it for you. So how can you find genuine compassion and understanding for someone you love dearly whose actions have caused great hurt? I acknowledge the strength shown in sharing this information and her own pain and regret. I can forgive but cannot forget. It consumes my every thought. That is not manufactured thought, that is thought from real events. I also need to carry some responsibility for my own actions for putting her in that situation. I just want to let go of all the hurt. Okay. Look, I think this is a great question. And really what you're talking about, as I listen to that, what you're talking about is forgiveness. Okay. How can you find forgiveness? And I think there's a couple of things around that I think are really important. Number one, whatever hurt and suffering we feel, we have to live in the feeling of. Okay. And so when you're angry with someone, when you're hurt with someone, when you're frustrated with someone, all of those things, when you're feeling all of those emotions, right? You've got to understand, whenever we look at someone and we feel anger towards them, and again, I'm never telling you what to do. Okay. Never, ever, ever. What you want to do with your life is totally up to you. The state of mind you want to be in is up to you. I made a decision a long time ago, especially after I'd gone through some very difficult things in my life, and at the time was feeling a lot of anger and resentment towards someone in particular in my life, and that feeling was eating me alive. And I had the realization one day that the events that had happened had already been and gone. They're in the past. The past does not exist in the now. Okay, you must realize this. The past does not exist in the now. The past is just memories carried through time via our thinking, right? It's what the past is. It's only when we ruminate and then we bring it into the now that we then think that the past is responsible for the now. You have to understand the now is a fresh moment of now. People struggle with this. They don't see the fresh moment of now that they have. Every moment of now is fresh. It's an independent moment. And the thing that changes our now is our contaminated thinking. And everybody has contaminated thinking. All right. That's a human being thing. But you have to understand what impacts the now is our own contaminated thinking. Now, the more deeply you understand this, the more choice you have over how you want to feel and the feeling you want to be in any given moment of now. We feel often, us humans, and this is a misunderstanding, that because things have happened in our past, that then determines the feeling or the experience we get to have in a moment of now. They are not, and this is very, I understand this is triggering for people. People get upset when I say this, tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, and all of those things. And I can understand why this would sound triggering to people. But what's happened in the past and what's happening now are not related. This is a fresh moment of now. Now, I understand if you don't understand the way things work, you would argue with me and go, but of course it is. And I want you to know, when you understand the way thought works, when you understand the psychological system of a human being, you realize that that's not true. Okay? One is not dependent upon the other. You can have freedom from those two things. Believe me, I've experienced it in my own life around very difficult things that have happened in my past. Don't think I'm sitting here as someone who's not had difficult things happen in her past. I have. Absolutely have, just like everybody. Very, very, very challenging, difficult things. And so I'm not saying this as someone who's never had difficult things happen. But the more you see that and understand that, there's great freedom in the seeing of that. And so you've said it here, David. You acknowledge the strength shown in sharing this person's pain and regret. And, you've said here it's not manufactured thought, but it's thought from real events. I don't know if that's entirely true. You have to understand, no two people see the world the same way. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. I'm just grabbing this. I think this is a great example of that. The facts are that this is a white cup, okay, or a creamy white cup. That is a fact. How I experience that cup is going to be completely different to somebody else. Someone could look at this cup and they could think to themselves, Oh, I hate white cups. White cups are really boring. Why would you ever drink out of a white cup? I need color in my life. And really, that cup, white cups stain easily. They're hard to clean. That cup's a bit too big. I like a smaller cup. I don't like the size of that handle. The handle's too wide. Yes, it's a white cup, but I don't really like white cups, and this is why. Someone else could look at this and say, oh, I love a clean white cup. Oh, and I love the fact that this has a thin lip. I love this. I love that this is a thin lip on this cup. I love a thin-lipped cup. I'm talking about myself right now because this is exactly what I would say. So I would say, I love a thin-lipped cup. I don't like drinking out of a thick cup. I like thin lips on a cup, like I truly do. I don't like having this big. So I love a thin-lipped cup. I would look at this and go, oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that you can keep them so clean. I just love it. I love a white cup. Now, I can have this experience. So, yes, this is the cup, but you could have someone come along and have a completely different experience of that cup. So, this is the same regardless of what is happening in your life. But people don't understand this, and they don't understand the depth. I've just explained this in a very short. I go into much more detail around this in my online program and in my client work. So, you have to understand that in order to navigate your own emotions, so then let's take this example to an emotional situation. In order to navigate your own emotions, and in order to navigate somebody else's emotions, and in order to access understanding and compassion and forgiveness, which is what David's talking about, you have to know when you have thinking that you can trust and when you have thinking you cannot trust. Now, everybody has untrustworthy thinking. Everybody. Okay? Everybody. People don't understand this. People believe every thought in their head. People think because I think it, it must be true. That's not correct. That's not true. That is not factually right. Okay? Just because you think something does not make something true. Now, understanding this as well, what exactly is truth? It can't be true if it only applies to me, can it? Right? It can't be true. It's just an opinion. This is my opinion. My opinion is not truth. My opinion is my opinion. My opinion is made up of the thinking that I think is true. But I just proved to you that nobody has the same thinking about anything. So what is actually true? What is reality? What is truth? These are some of the things we talk about in Relatable because people land in these very toxic places emotionally and then project those emotions out, and they feel very justified in doing so. They feel very indignant. They get very self-righteous and they get very judgmental, and they destroy goodwill. It impacts communication. It impacts emotional safety, and it is really damaging in our relationships. But if we can't see what is true and what is not true, then it's very hard for us to create any long-term change. Okay? We just keep coming back and doing the same thing over and over and over again. And you can learn about communication styles, personality types, attachment styles. You can learn all of that stuff, masculine and feminine energy, blah, blah, blah. But if you fundamentally haven't changed your relationship with your thinking, that isn't going to impact that, right? You have to know what is true and what is not. You have to know when you are emotionally intelligent and when you are not. You have to understand yourself in a way that you haven't before, right? Okay? You have to understand yourself in a way you haven't before, because it is layers of understanding that create access to forgiveness, to compassion, to freedom, emotional freedom, which is what compassion and understanding bring into your life. Okay, when you're caught up in your own reality, and these are the things that get us stuck. Oh, I wouldn't speak to someone like that. I would never say that to another human being. If someone did that to me, I would never do that. I would never shut down. I would never yell. I would never scream. I would never insult them. I would never get nasty. I would never make it personal. I would never, 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 right? These are the things people do. And they start comparing their realities to someone else. They start comparing and judging. And then all that does is lead to self-righteousness and the need or the desire to win, to prove, to argue a point. None of these things create connection. Now, I say this as someone who used to very much be addicted to being right, very much addicted to saying what was on my mind, and you need to know what I think, and you need to know how I feel, and you need to know this, and you need to know that, right? And I can tell you, it was not great for my relationships. I didn't feel good. It's lonely being right, isn't it? It's exhausting walking on eggshells. If you don't know these things about yourself, okay, if you don't know when you have a reality you can trust, if you believe every thought in your head, you are going to create the same thing over and over again. All right. You can use willpower for a bit and try and let things go and, let put things down. But ultimately, you'll keep coming back to the same place if you feel justified enough. And this is where I just see people going around in the same cycles and the same circles again and again and again. And from there, it's very hard to access compassion and understanding. It's very hard to see the innocence in another person. You just keep getting caught up in your same toxic thinking. And you just keep going there again and again and again. I see this with people all the time. Okay. So, and I see what creates fundamental long term change is when people start to understand how they create their reality, when people have a different relationship with their thinking, they stop believing everything that they think, when they stop projecting their reality onto someone else, when they become curious. That's how you access those things, right? I talk about this a lot in Relatable. So I call this the work ethic of love. There's a work ethic, just like in life, we all get taught a work ethic. Like, do you know what I mean? That you've got to be consistent. You need to apply yourself to things. You need to work hard. Um, I don't. I know that there are people who work too hard, and we take that too far. But we all there's a kind of a pretty clear understanding that if you want something enough in life, you apply yourself, you work towards it, you do what you need to do, and you'll get there, right? It's the same with love. If you think about it, it's all well and good to find compassion and patience, etc., when someone is showing up in life the way you want them to, when they're behaving the way you think they should. Listen to my words, should. When you think they are showing up and handling things the way that you want them to, that you think is right, do you know what I mean? That you believe is the right way to be. But it's when they're not being that way, okay, that the work ethic of love really comes into play, where your understanding of how things work comes into play, where the amount of emotional bandwidth you have within yourself comes into play. People who overthink, people who ruminate, people who go around and round and round have no bandwidth. And so if you have no bandwidth, you just react. Okay, you react. A lack of bandwidth leaves you with no choice. And so I find when people have this understanding, they access emotional bandwidth. They're a lot more patient. They're better at holding space. They stop rushing into fix. They have access to different thinking, which leads to compassion and understanding and forgiveness and curiosity and holding space. You have to understand people are doing the best that they can with the thinking that looks real and true to them in any given moment of now. That's just it. You are the same. I am the same. This is the truth of all human beings. Okay. Everybody loses their way at some point or another. Everybody. Okay. Everybody loses their way. Love, and this may sound very what's the word? Cheesy, woo woo, whatever. Cynic, and those of you who are listening with it through a cynical lens will hear it that way. Love is the most powerful force on earth. Love is the most powerful force on earth. Pain and suffering creates more pain and suffering. That's what it does. That's just what it does. You bring love and understanding. It doesn't mean that you have to be best friends with that person or you have to have them in your life, but it stops that cycle, that toxic cycle of just going of that figure eight toxic cycle that I see going round and around and around and around and around and around and around, happening all over again, right? when someone brings something else to the table and they show compassion, which is love, they show understanding, which is love, when they listen instead of react and defend and lead with their insecurities and their frailties, which is what I see again and again and again. And so we just come back to the same point again and again and again. And I think one of the very beautiful, empowering things, and you can ask my students, they will say this, when they start being the one that shows up differently, when they have that level of expansiveness inside themselves, they feel empowered. They don't feel like they're giving up something or they're sweeping something under the rug or they're compromising themselves, or they feel empowered. They're like, I love the fact that I can bring this to someone I care about. I love the fact that I have access to this inside myself now. I love the fact that I can be patient. I love the fact that I can bring something different. I love the fact that I am doing that for the people I love. I love that. This is what my students tell me. Okay. Now, without understanding what it is I teach at a deep level, you could sit back and you can say, well, you're just teaching people to sweep things under the rug. You're teaching people not to say how they feel. That's not what I'm teaching. That's not what I'm teaching. I know it looks like that from where you sit when we're angry and we're hurt and we don't have an understanding of how we work and we can't see our shared humanness. I get that. I used to see things that way myself. I understand it. But I'm telling you right now, that is a limited way to live your life. Being able to bring compassion and understanding to another human being is freeing for them, and it is unbelievably freeing for you. For you. It is unbelievably freeing. Truly it is. I have not met a single person on the face of this earth, right? And believe me, I've only met a small percentage of people, so I get that, right? Who doesn't want to know how to let go of something. One of my most frequently asked questions is, Fiona, how can I let this go? How can I put this down? How can I stop thinking about this? Right? This is what people want. You cannot do that through self-righteousness, arrogance, justification, judgment. You cannot. All that does is keep you stuck in the same cycle. It just does. That is your logical brain, right? That is our ego mind. If the only lens with which you look at something through is that, you are forever limited by whatever you see through that lens. And so you will repeat. It's only when we get access, when we fall out of our logical brain, when we fall out of our intellect, when we fall out of our ego, and people do fall out of them, when that falls away, we get to see things through the lens of love, understanding, kindness, compassion, expansiveness. And the feeling of that is so good. It is such an amazing feeling. It's a feeling of lightness. It's a feeling of freedom. It's a feeling of groundedness. It's a feeling of expansiveness. It's a feeling of peace, of joy, of curiosity. It's so good. People go, oh my God, I want more of that, Fiona. And all of a sudden, this stuff that you were getting caught up in, how could they? They need to know. I need to tell them how I feel. They need to learn their lesson. I hear this all the time. It is not up to you to teach someone their lesson. That's not your job. I know this is confronting for people to hear. That's not your job. Truly, I can't emphasize this enough. Because when we look at something through that lens, it's not a pretty lens, guys. It's a lens of arrogance, and it does not create what you're looking for in your relationships. I promise you that. There is another way to have a shared experience with a human being if there is something that's on your mind that you want to connect with them about, but you can't do it through that lens. Believe me, I've done it. I've made that mistake many times. There's a whole other lens on offer, and that's what I'm pointing to. That's what I'm talking to, where you can share what is on your mind, but you're doing it through a loving lens. You're still having the conversation, but it's not coming from this arrogant, I know better than you, right? I can't tell you. My reality is more important than yours. No, it's not. Or my reality is better than yours, or my reality is more true than yours. No, it's not. There are unlimited realities in the world. one of the hardest things for us to see is just because my reality feels more compelling does not make it more important than, more truthful, more right, more correct than somebody else's. Okay, coming back to some of these comments. Thanks, Carol. Hey, Mairead, Nathan, perspective for the win, wash the window. Okay. Hey, Christy from Northern Carolina. Oh, California, beg your pardon. Tanya, hello, darling. For what it's worth, I once used hypnotherapy to block intrusive thoughts from the past. Look, I want to just say something about that. I'm not. I think that's great. Like if you've had hypnotherapy, but I want to just say to that is, I would rather you have a different relationship so that moving forward, you know how to navigate your thinking. To me, that's the difference between. And when I say different relationship, I mean a different relationship with thinking in it itself. That's to me the difference between feeding someone fish and teaching them how to fish. Okay, I'm not saying hypnotherapy is bad or it's great. It can bring us relief to things. It really, really can. But on a long-term basis, I want you to feel empowered because you're navigating that differently. Okay, but yes, you're right, Ian. You know, when our intrusive thoughts about the past aren't such a massive feature in our now, yes, there's a huge relief in that. Erica, hi Fiona, thank you for your time. What would you recommend with my wife is not taking my calls, responding for the last 4 months? I'm so sorry to hear that, Eric. I truly am. You can't, if someone's not responding to your calls, if you're not getting much from that person, all I can say to you is use that time to gain a greater understanding of yourself, to gain a greater understanding of what it is there for you to learn in this situation. Because when you have a greater understanding of yourself, when you are not so much in your intellectual ego mind and you're in touch with our what I would call wisdom, when you're more in touch with your intuitive mind, and we all have that, when you're in touch with that aspect of ourselves that brings us insight and fresh thinking, it changes our energetic the energy that we lead with. It changes our energetic blueprint, and our energy is something that people can feel in us. They can feel it in a text message. They can feel it in the next room, like truly energy is massively influential, and the energy that we lead with is our biggest blind spot. Use this time to change those things, Eric, so that number one, you're in a completely different frame of mind. You're in a different space of well-being. You're operating from a different level of understanding. You're operating from a more expansive mindset rather than that fearful mindset that kind of has us shrink and doubt ourselves, and other people can pick up on. So that if you do get a chance to chat with your wife, and at some point you will, that is already in place. Okay, that is already in place. You're feeling better, and you're bringing a different energy to it. That is really, truly what I would recommend. Lisa, every single time I listen to Fiona, I get something more. And trust me, I've listened a lot. Yes, you have, Lisa. Lisa's been in my relatable program for a while. Thank you for your comment, honey. I appreciate it. Okay, this is a very Nazanin. Hi, Nazanin. Hi, Fiona. Okay, this is a very long note and too many questions. My ex has major anxiety, overthinking, and suffers from childhood trauma. For months, I've tried to help him, but he kept pushing me away and broke up a few times. Okay, 1 second. Sorry, guys. For months, I've tried to help him, but he kept pushing me away and broke up a few times. I've also finally gave up and tried to move on. He's seeking professional help right now and reached out to me to get back together. I took him back and he pushed me away again and again, claiming he's still very anxious. He claims he never loved anyone, but he misses. I'm not sure if that's okay. I'm not sure if I'm missing something there. So what's your question, Nazanin? Okay, just so I speak to what your question is. If you can let me know what your question is around that, I'll make sure that I speak to that question. I can't see a question in what you've asked me. Like I can hear what you've gone through, and I'm sorry that you've gone through that. I really am. I know how tricky that can be, but I'm just curious what your actual question is about that. I'm glad to hear that he got professional help. I really, really am. One thing I will say about it, see the difference when you let go, how that provided space for something. Nazneen, you said for months I tried to help him and he kept pushing you away. And then you finally stepped back and let go. You gave up and you just let go, right? And that gave him space and he's gone and sought professional help. Sometimes we often push too much when we need to stop, and knowing when it's time to stop is very, very important. That's what clarity of mind gives you. That's what layers of understanding gives you, is the ability to know when it's time to step back and stop. And it actually becomes a very peaceful knowing that you bring, and instead of this, I can't do this anymore. I can't, I've had enough. And you back away from that place. This is what I mean by it brings with this peaceful knowing. Okay, Ian, I love this discussion of reality, such beautiful philosophy. Yes, it is. It is a beautiful conversation. It is a beautiful philosophy, and it brings such a sense of calm and peace into our lives. And hence why I just think it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Truly, it is. The quality of my own well-being and the quality of my life has changed so much, even though I've had difficult things happen, because as we say all the time, life is a contact sport, right? It truly is. It's a contact sport. There's always something going on, and life can sweep the rug out from under your feet at times, right? And it can happen very suddenly and quickly when we least expect it. But when you have this understanding, you draw back on this again and again and again. And I have experienced this firsthand, where I can experience a high level of well-being and peace within myself, and yes, at times joy, when even life is very challenging and difficult and none of it's going out happening the way I expect it to. To me, that is the gift that just keeps on giving. And I say this as someone who grew up thinking that I was an unlucky person, that life was hard, that things were never going to go my way, and life always felt to me like it was just one disaster after another. That to me would be a great description, in amongst some great things that happened in my life, but a great description overall of how my life was until I got to my, I would say, mid-30s. Okay, that's just how I saw life. And that's how life showed up for me. And I always felt so unlucky, and life was just way too hard, and I could never cop a break. Truly, that was just how I saw life. And of course, interestingly enough, that is how life reflected itself back to me, right? I had so much evidence to say that that was true. And then I came across something that profoundly changed that for me forever. And I'm not going to say I haven't had difficult things happen to me since. I absolutely have. But the level of resilience I experienced through them, the level of well-being that I have, my ability to let things go and put the past in the past, priceless to me, totally priceless, and really fantastic for my relationships. I mean, my husband and I are about to celebrate our 19th wedding anniversary this month. 19th wedding anniversary. When we were 6 years in, I was ready to walk away from the whole thing. I was ready to get divorced. I thought we were incompatible. I thought we had nothing in common. I didn't think I loved him anymore. I was convinced that that was true. I'm so grateful that I was given the opportunity to see what I've seen. I cannot tell you that. I cannot express that enough. Okay. Hey, Mick. Thanks for saying hi. Nazneen, what should I do with an anxious partner who keeps pushing me away? Should I stay away from him? Is his anxiety ever going to go away? I don't know if his anxiety is ever going to go away. I don't know what kind of help he's getting. I don't know where he's at without knowing where he's at and what he's doing around that. I honestly, I don't have the answer to that question. All I can say to you is you have to think about, stop living in the future, right? This is your now, where things are right now. Am I happy right now? Is this what I want right now? Is this an experience I want right now? Your now is the only thing that is true and real. What makes sense to you in this moment of now? Life is best lived moment of now to moment of now. So many people live their lives in the future. I'll hang in there in case this happens or that happens or whatever. And I just say, where are you right now in relationship to this? Are you happy? Is this fulfilling to you? Is this what you want right now? Right? Now, if he keeps pushing you away, is this okay with you right now? What is it you want to create right now? We talk about this a lot in Relatable, and I know it's hard to get your head around this, but truly, this is so true. You are the creator of your reality. It is not being created for you. You are the creator of your reality. Truly, when people see this, and I mean deeply see this to be true, it is so liberating, right? It really, really is. It's so liberating. It is such an easier place to make decisions from. Those big decisions. Do I want to be here? Do I want to leave? How do I recover from something? How do I move forward? When you understand that you are the creator of your reality, it is so much easier to do that. All right. You cannot help him with his relationship anxiety. It is not your job, honey. That's the first thing you need to see. Not your job. That is not your job. Truly. When you get caught up in that, you end up becoming more like someone's mother. It's not sexy. And it is not, truly, that is not your job. Okay? I know that might sound cold to some of you. That might sound mean, and I don't mean that at all. I really don't. But it is not your job to help someone with their relationship anxieties. That is up to them. You can be present, you can be supportive, right? You can be understanding, but they must sort their own stuff out, right? That is their responsibility. It is not yours. That is their responsibility. Okay? Now, I want to say to you, for those of you who are in a relationship and you're not sure if you want to be there or not, okay? Number one, always make those decisions when you've got a clear mind. All right? Best place to make a decision from around anything, okay, is when you've got a clear mind. You generally know when you have a clear mind, when you are feeling calm and neutral and grounded in yourself, right? That's when you generally know you've got a clear mind. All right. So, like I said, I explain all of these things in much greater detail in my program, but give you a very quick kind of lesson around that. So that is the best place to make a decision from. All right. But if you're in a relationship with someone and they are not willing, they know they've got a problem and they're not willing to do anything about that, you have to ask yourself, and again, I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. If they never do anything about this thing, do I want to be in this relationship, right? Don't be in a relationship with someone in the hope that one day they might do something about it, right? Hang on. Let me change what I just said slightly. Don't stay in a relationship is what I meant to say. Don't stay there in the hope that one day they may do something about that, or you thinking you're the one who can fix them. Please don't do that. It's exhausting. It becomes a very codependent, toxic cycle, and the chances of that person changing are very slim. If you are in a relationship with someone who knows they've got a problem and they're willing to go and look for the answers and do something about that, awesome, great. But please don't take that on board and make that your job. You should not be your partner's therapist. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is up to them to go and do something about that. All right? It truly is. Now, if you've taken that on board and nothing's changing, it's a slippery, slippery, slippery slope. I don't recommend it. All right? I don't recommend it. Now, if you are in a relationship with someone who has got problems and they're not prepared to do anything about it, or nothing's changing, then you just have to ask it. That's the question. Can I be happy? Right? And some people might say, yes, I can. And that's fine. Knowing that this isn't going to change or this isn't changing, and I'm okay with that right here and now. Right? Am I okay with that right here and now? Those are the questions you want to just give yourself a chance to sit with, reflect with, and take some time to have a think about. You don't have to rush into a question like that, an answer like that. Take some time to think, take some time to let it sit, take some time to let it marinate. You don't need to rush it, but those are the kinds of questions I'd be asking. All right. Hey, Lise. Hello. Oh my God, it's so good to see you. Hello. Mick, should you tell them it's their responsibility? Well, yes, you can say that to someone, as long as it's not coming from an indignant, self-righteous place, right? You can say to someone, look, hey, I'm really sorry you're going through that. What is it that you think you're going to do about that? What are you going to do about that? Okay? How are you going to deal with that? Like, those are the questions that you want to kind of be asking that person, right? Rather than, I think you should do X. I think you should do this. Have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about, can you see now all of a sudden the burden for change is now on you? It's not on the other person. And what tends to happen in that dynamic, I find, is that the person who has taken that on tends to overfunction. Okay, because they're coming up with all the ideas, they're coming up with all the, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? Have you done this? Have you done that? Right? They overfunction, and then the person that they're with underfunctions. This just happens time and time and time again until the person that's overfunctioning gets burnt out, resentful, frustrated, has enough, and walks away. Okay, I just see that play out again and again and again, because that cycle is not healthy. You should not be your partner's therapist. Okay, truly, truly, truly. Susan, hey Susan, hello. Thank you for saying hi, darling. I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate that. Always lovely to hear from you, Susan. Okay, everyone. Wow, we're at the 41-minute mark. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me talk. I hope this has been helpful. I just realized the questions that were sent in, I didn't even get to them today. I promise you I'll get to those questions next week. Thank you all so much for being here. I want to say a big shout out to my eldest son. It is his birthday on Sunday. Happy birthday, my darling. I love you so much. And I will see all of you next Friday. If you have a question that you want to ask me, send an email to hello@fionalukeis.com.au. If you want to know more about my Relatable program, honestly, Relatable is such a wonderful, amazing program. I'd love to have a chat to you about it. Love to have you join us potentially. It is just, it's just my heart, my soul is in that program. And with my Relatable students, you could book a time to have a chat with me here. To those of you who are in YouTube or on YouTube, if you're listening, thank you so much. I'm still pretty new to YouTube, but I appreciate anybody who's subscribing and listening. And again, everybody who's followed me today and posted comments, thank you all so much. It's such a pleasure to spend this time with you. Hey, Lucy. Hello, darling. All right, everybody. You're welcome. Sandy. Thanks, Nathan. See you all next week. Ciao. Bye.